Hi Floss fans, my name is Ella, my pronouns are she, her, and this is my channel Spectrum Stitcher, where I talk about my passion for cross stitch, other crafts, and the research that I do as part of my PhD in relation to climate change law and Australian coal. It's been a long time since I filmed a Flosstube, over a year in fact, and quite simply the reason for that is that my PhD took the focus for me this year, as well as raising my beautiful children. So I'm proud to say that I've reached the milestone of completion, and this varies from university to university, but it means that in about October this year I stood up and gave a 40-minute summation of my research, outlining my methodology, my research question, my findings, and then took questions. And that means that all there is now to do is to edit my thesis, revise it, and submit it. By all there is to do, I don't mean that that's a small task. It's still quite a substantial task, but it does mean that I should be, and I'm on track to submit my thesis within the next couple of months. So I thought now was as good a time as any to check in. Thank you to those of you who have reached out to me and said that you miss my videos and encouraged me to make another one. Your words mean more to me than you know. I certainly have felt the love and the encouragement to make another video. So the plan for today is to show you my finishes for 2023. And then I do plan to make a works in progress or whip parade video separately. And previously I've had my head in the sand about the amount of whips that I have. I've been quite happy to be blissfully unaware of how many whips I have, but then recently I decided to do a bit of a reorganize to separate everything that had become intermingled, including my works in progress and then things that I had, patterns that I'd kitted up. And it was nice to sort of uncover things that I hadn't worked on for a while, take a bit of an assessment of the things that I want to prioritize going forward. And I now do know the number of works in progress I have. So the giveaway for this video will be, if you would like to guess the number of whips that I have, the person who either guesses the amount or the person who is nearest will win a prize that I will post anywhere in the world. So comment below, make sure you're subscribed to this channel with the number of works in progress you think I have, and then when I post my next video I will announce the winner. So without further ado, let's get into my finishes for 2023. There are 15 of those. And I've mainly focused on smaller pieces this year. I think they've been calling to me because they're sort of manageable, not very overwhelming. They've really suited the relaxation that I've needed from my stitching this year. I should say that, you know, even though I haven't been making Flosstube videos, stitching has still formed the foundation of my relaxation this year, which has been very much needed with trying to finish off a PhD. Yeah, let's dive right in, shall we? Now, I haven't, I've kept good records of what I've finished, the names of patterns and things, but I might be a bit hazy on some fabric details and things like that, but I hope that you will enjoy the stitching nonetheless. So let's dive into it. So my first finish for the year was Yellow Submarine by Blackbird Designs. I stitched this using all the called for threads, and I stitched it on some 18 count Ada by number 12 Stitch Co on Etsy. I believe this shade is called Silvery Moon, though I don't have the tag. Now I have noticed that there's not Ada stocked in number 12 Stitch Co's shop at the moment, but all of these shades are available in linen versions. So if you're a linen stitcher, then please do check it out. Check number 12 Stitch Co out. And I should say, in relation to lighting today, I'm just grabbing a moment that I have free. There is some light streaming through behind me, but hopefully you should be able to see the stitching okay. So I'll zoom in. So that is Yellow Submarine by Blackbird Designs. I should also say that most of the things I'm about to show you are finished, as in the stitching is finished, but they're not fully finished. They've mostly been hanging in my cupboard. the framer near me has closed up business, so I'm looking for another local to me framer that knows how to sort of treat and preserve needlework the way that our stitching deserves. But yes, there's certainly, in terms of the things that I don't want framed that I just want to fully finish in hoops and things like that, there's certainly a need for me to sort that out. But I do tend to enjoy stitching more than I enjoy finishing, which I know there's others out there like me. I'm certainly one of those process stitchers. So the next finish, I should say that Yellow Submarine I finished on the 4th of January 2023. Then the next finish was the 4th of February 2023, and I continued with the Magical Mystery Tour, the Beatles series by Blackbird Designs, and stitched Octopus's Garden. So here that is. And I stitched that when I was on a holiday with my children in Anglesey, which is a beautiful seaside town along the Great Ocean Road in Victoria, Australia. So I thought that this stitch fitted the theme of the holiday absolutely perfectly. I'll zoom in. So I stitched this on the same fabric, 18 count Silvery Moon Ada by number 12 Stitch Co, as well as using all the called for threads. And yeah, I just think it's so cute. I also discovered with this stitch that I love stitching lettering. I'm not really a sampler stitcher, so I hadn't stitched much lettering before, but I just love how the words stitch up quite quickly and appear before your eyes. So certainly I do see some more wording stitching in my future. Just got everything on my lap here, so please bear with me as I balance everything. So my next finish is by Stitchy Princess Black, who is a Ukrainian designer, and like many of us in the Flosstube community, when the Russian war against Ukraine commenced, I felt called to support a Ukrainian designer and bought quite a number of her charts. And then I thought this would be a perfect Easter stitch, as well as I saw Amanda May from Artist Design stitch this one up. So this is Rabbits, Carrots, Eggs by Stitchy Princess Black. I should say too, I have not ironed anything, but that's life. This is real life here. So quite unusually for me, I stitched this in my own colours. I didn't use the called for DMC threads. I kitted up this project from Fancy Floss in Stash. The rabbits in the pattern are called for in white, but I wanted to find a brown shade that would make my rabbits look like chocolate Easter bunnies. And I can't recall what threads I used, but I do think that whichever Fancy Floss has the shade Carrot is what I use for the orange, because I like the idea of using a floss called Carrot for carrots. I'll zoom in for you. So this is also stitched on some numbers 12 Stitch Co 18 count Ada, and I do have the tag here. It's Autumn Beach. It's a lovely golden tone. And that was finished on the 16th of March. And I should say rather, these are not all starts and finishes. Some of these were works in progress commenced before 2023, but these are just what I've finished this year. The next is Dandelion by Gerda Bengtsson from the book Danish Floral Chartered Designs. I finished this on the 4th of April 2023, and here it is. It's also on an 18 count Ada by number 12 Stitch Co. I don't recall the shade and I don't have the tag for this one. I stitched it in all the called for DMC. And the reason why this chart called to me is that during the pandemic, when here in Victoria, Australia, we were locked down for quite long periods of time, my children and I spent a lot of time together, as I'm sure many families did at that time. And we'd go for our daily walks for the allocated time in the allocated geographic area. And my children really taught me a lot during the pandemic about resilience. And one of the things that my children are really good at is that they're good at focusing on small joys and taking pleasure in small things. and we would go walking, and they would find dandelions, dandelion seed heads like this here, and they would blow the seed heads into the air and make a wish. And that's just a magical memory, and I have photographs of both of my children blowing the seed heads of dandelions, and I have them framed and on a shelf at home. So I wanted to stitch this pattern to include in that display, and so I did, but I haven't yet put it in an embroidery hoop. But I'll zoom in for you. So my plan is to put this in an embroidery hoop and wrap the hoop in some recycled sari silk from Mojo Stitches, who is on Etsy and is also a fabulous chart designer. So that is Dandelion by Gerda Bengtsson. The next finish is Swan Lake by Gerda Designs, Kyoko Maruoka, a Japanese designer. This is stitched on 14 count Ada in a purple colour. I believe it might be called lavender or maybe lilac. It says Weigart colour, and here it is. I stitched this using all the called for DMC. I really enjoyed this full coverage section. That's something that I don't do often, and I really enjoyed it. And I also love this sun and how the cherry blossoms, the sakura, are sort of set in front of the sun and the sun's peeking through it. That's something that made cool to me about this design. I'll zoom in. So I have another Swan Lake pattern by Kyoko Maruoka in my works in progress, spoiler alert for the next video, and it's on a lovely red background, so I'm looking forward to finishing that one and then displaying these together. So that's my plan. So I'm noticing there's quite a lot of shine on me, and I think that's partially from the ring light and filming in the day, but also it's quite a balmy, humid day here in Australia. So we're heading into a hot Christmas holiday season, but also it's quite stormy. We've had lightning, thunder, intermittent rain, and so hence the lovely glow I have on me at the moment. I also should say I'm filming in a different location than normal. So I'm in my home, and I usually put up colourful backdrops and enjoy doing that for my videos. But I think part of my hesitation in filming another video was, or the delay rather, was because, I wanted to find a day where I could be bothered putting up a backdrop, where my hair looked nice, where I could be bothered putting on makeup, when I had energy and was perky and felt talkative, where I had the time. All of those things needed to align, and I thought today, instead of waiting for the perfect day, waiting for the perfect lighting, waiting for the impetus to put up that backdrop, I thought, no, I'm just going to film as is and reconnect with this beautiful community that I love so much, this cross-stitching community. So I'm sitting on a beautiful 1940s velvet armchair that I found on Facebook Marketplace. I bought it along with another identical armchair and then a 3-seater couch. I will insert a picture of it here. So as you can see, it is just beautiful. I bought it from the daughter of the person who reupholstered it in this beautiful red velvet. It's in mint condition. I'm so delighted to have it in my home because I've really been wanting to curate a vintage aesthetic, and certainly buying this set this year has taken me one step further towards that goal in my home. There have been some times where I've felt a bit worried about the fact that it's in mint condition, and I have 2 young children, and you know, would we be able to maintain the condition they're in? But then I realized that bringing this color and tactile joy, we quite love the feel of the velvet, myself and my children, that was worth it, that we should just use and enjoy these things. If one day down the track I need to reupholster it, that will be fine. So yeah, that's where I'm filming from today. I'm wedged between a fireplace and a bookshelf, and I love the coziness of this corner. So let me know if you like this filming location. Perhaps at night when the sun's not coming through the window might be a better time, but yeah, let me know what you think. Okay, back to the stitching. So, like many of us in the Flosstube community, in the cross-stitching world, I really look forward to Nashville Needlework Market, and, you know, I save up a little bit, let myself have a bit of a spend at that time. I've been very good at that, but what I've been less good at is stitching the things that I have so lovingly collected at that time. So my goal for this year was to purchase something that I would immediately stitch, and the pattern rather that fit the bill was Eliza's French birds. So here it is. As Brenda and Laura would say, this pattern is absolutely darling. It's a really approachable size, so I think that's another reason why it stood out to me as the pattern from Needlework Market that I would stitch this year. And also, you know, like many of us in the Flosstube community, I really want to I really want to stitch a bird wall for myself, and so this felt like a good pattern for that purpose as well. I stitched it on 18 count Salted Caramel Ada by number 12 Stitch Co, and I stitched it in all the called for threads. I'll just zoom in for you. I'm so happy to have this stitch in my completed collection. I just love it. It's just everything I love about cross stitch: nature, birds, beautiful colors, an antique vintage vibe. So that's that one. So it's called Eliza's French Birds 1847 by JBW Designs. I'm not sure if I said the designer originally. And I finished that on the 16th of May 2023. Okay. So then the next stitch was because I became obsessed with that sort of witchy cottagecore aesthetic vibe patterns, and Mama Witch cross stitch on Etsy certainly fits the bill. And I've been, perhaps also because I've been watching Amy Loves Toads here on Flosstube, I've been very drawn to frogs, toads, mushrooms, those types of patterns. So this one is called Toad by Mama Witch cross stitch, stitched on 14 count Ada in the called for DMC, and I finished this on the 16th of June. And I'll just zoom in for you. Now this is one of those occasions that you need to put something behind it, so here we go. Now, I think this pattern is intentionally inspired by the books Frog and Toad by Arnold Lobel. And there's certainly not a book that I was aware of as a child, but I have absolutely fallen in love with as an adult. I just love the whimsical vibe, the simple, happy living sort of lessons that it teaches you about companionship and the value of friendship. And so this is Toad, and then there's a companion piece that Mama Witch cross stitch has designed of Mr. Frog. And my plan is to film, I'm saying that a lot, frame these side by side. You know how you can get hinged frames that sometimes you display, you know, pictures of a couple in. So I'm hoping to find a thin gold frame on a hinge to display these side by side. And spoiler alert, Mr. Frog is in my whip parade, so my whip pile rather, so you'll see him in my whip parade. But Mr. Toad's grumpy little face kept me such great company this year. And I just loved every single stitch of him, and I love him in his striped bathing suit. Okay, so what else do I have here to show you? Okay, so then I went back to Kyoko Maruoka and I stitched 2 of her little Red Riding Hood patterns. Now, I think she has 3 in existence, one of which is out of print, but these are 2 that are available in Stitch Ideas magazine. It's a Japanese magazine. I can't recall what volume of the magazine it is, but I will put that in the description box below. But what drew me to these patterns were the beautiful colours. So here is the first one. I mean, who wouldn't want to live in a bright blue house with a plaid hot pink roof? I'll just zoom in for you. So I stitched this in all the called for DMC on, I think, 16 count or 14 count Rustico Ada by Zweigart. Here is the second design. And this floral border in the same tones as that beautiful house on the other pattern just spoke to me, and the beautiful butterflies. I'll just zoom in for you. This one, of course, has the big bad wolf, who's a bit of a small cute wolf in this rendition. So my plan for these is to put them in embroidery hoops and wrap the hoops in red sari silk ribbon from Mojo Stitches on Etsy. It's recycled sari silk, so that will be fantastic. So I've got to get my fully finishing on. Then the next 2 finishes I don't have with me to show you. One, because I fully finished it, my only fully finish of the year, and gave it to a recipient in a cross-stitch smalls exchange. And the other one, because I think I've squirreled it away with the finishing supplies in a drawer somewhere and I need to unearth it. But the first was a movement started by my favourite Flosstubers of all time, Catherine and Victoria from Neat and Knot by the Sea. And they had the Stacy Nash Pig Pinkeep pattern, say that 3 times fast, and they encouraged us all to stitch a pig from that pattern or from another pattern and turn the finish into a brooch, and created the hashtag pig on my chest sal, SAL, and it was just such a fun little movement to be part of. So I stitched the pig in from the design, from Stacy Nash's design, in one night, chose my own colours, felt really connected to other cross stitches while I was doing it. It was exactly the fun that I needed at that time. And then put it in a drawer and didn't finish it into a brooch. But what I would like to ideally be doing is to wear my cross stitch brooch very often. I mean, it's a long-term goal of mine to have more cross-stitch on my clothing. So the first thing I should do is finish that stitch into a brooch so that I can do that. The second one I did finish into a brooch, but I suppose I had the motivation to do so because it was for a cross-stitch smalls exchange. So this year in July, I had the absolute pleasure of going to a Stitch in Time Hobart's Christmas in July cross-stitching retreat. It was just a dream. I think I've shared on this channel before that while I do a lot of Christmas stitching, Christmas itself has been overwhelming and stressful for me in the past. So I do a lot of Christmas stitching to try and create a new tradition for myself with the Christmas holiday. And so I wasn't necessarily drawn to the theme of the retreat because, quite frankly, I think for me, Christmas can stay in December and not be all year because it's an overwhelming enough time. But because Carolyn at A Stitch in Time Hobart does such an amazing job of running retreats, and I'd been to my first ever cross-stitch retreat with A Stitch in Time Hobart 12 months earlier, I was very motivated to reconnect with the people I had met and catch up with some stitchy friends. So I went along. And it was so magical that the spirit of Christmas was definitely there, that I became wrapped up in it. I mean, there were presents, there was a beautiful Christmas lunch meal, and certainly I found magic in Christmas in July while I was there. And I participated in my first ever cross-stitch smalls exchange. Now, I was really quite nervous about that because, I didn't think my stitching was necessarily of high enough quality, or particularly my finishing. I was a bit worried about it. But if anyone ever feels hesitant to participate in a cross stitch exchange, please just go ahead and give it a go, because as we know, the cross stitch community is so kind, and there's something very special about giving cross stitch to someone who adores cross stitch as much as you do. And so they really appreciate the time and effort that you've put into the stitch in a way that perhaps a non-cross stitcher doesn't. And also I got so much lovely feedback and encouragement from my lovely recipient. So I stitched a bird brooch. So I took a motif from A Heart Remembers by Blackbird Designs, and yeah, turned that into a brooch. Now, I forgot to put in an image of the pig on my chest cell brooch, so I'll do that now. And then here is the brooch that I took the bird motif from A Heart Remembers and gave to my lovely Stitchy friend at the A Stitch in Time Hobart retreat. Okay, and I should say with that Blackbird Designs A Heart Remembers bird, I stitched that using the DMC conversion listed on the chart. So the rest of the finishes for the year I do have with me. And the first one is my biggest finish for the year, one of my oldest works in progress. And I decided to stitch it to fit in with the Christmas in July theme at the cross stitch retreat. You didn't have to stitch on Christmas stitches, but I thought it was a good sort of way to team with the theme. And so this is Satsuma Street's Noel sampler. Those who've followed my channel since its inception will have seen this many times. I think I started it when the Stitch Along started in 2021, didn't finish it for that Christmas, and then didn't finish it for 2022's Christmas either, but I did take it with me when I visited Cambridge University for a conference, which actually is, my last video was the one that I filmed just before I went. So I might actually insert some photos of my Cambridge University visit here, because it was a white Christmas while I was there. So I'll do that for those interested now. So thank you for indulging me in a trip down memory lane of this time 12 months ago going to Cambridge University in the UK. But so this stitch came with me through Heathrow Airport, and then it also came with me through Hobart Airport to go to the Stitch in Time retreat this year. I didn't finish it at the Stitch in Time retreat, but I kept it out from that retreat onwards till I finished it. Without further ado, here it is. Now this is stitched on 14 count Rustico Ada by Zweigart in all the called for DMC. There's a few unintentional personalizations, but I love this stitch. I am proud as punch to have finished it. I've ordered a frame to have a go at framing it myself. I'm going to go with a gold frame because I'd like to ideally have it up this Christmas. And it's just imbued with so many beautiful memories. I mean, this dove here, I'll zoom in, the dove I stitched when I was in Cambridge, the love heart I stitched in Hobart Airport. I finished the candle at the Stitch in Time retreat. I'm not sure which is my favourite motif. I really liked stitching the letters in particular. My name starts with E, so perhaps the letter E. But I just loved this stitch, and it's just so bright and beautiful. I'll just zoom in for a moment for you all. Hopefully you've all had a good view, but that is my biggest finish for this year, one of my oldest works in progress, and I could not be happier with myself for getting that done. Okay, the next finish, if I can find it on my lap, is somewhere here. It's hiding. Okay, we might have to do a bit of a hold, please, and I'll find it. I found it. So this is by 1897 Schoolhouse Samplers, and there's a series that 1897 Schoolhouse Samplers is doing with Evertote and Roxy Floss Co. in Canada, based on an antique. I think there are going to be 5 patterns total, and the first pattern in the series was a mirror image very similar to Eliza's French birds, and I think that's sort of indicative of the fact that the young women who were stitching these and learning to stitch cross stitch were stitching from similar models, so that's quite exciting to see. And the 1897 Schoolhouse Samplers version is in a beautiful burgundy and blue tones, and part of me really wanted to stitch that, but then I thought maybe I will down the track, because I'm quite a completionist, and if there's going to be a set, I want to stitch the set. So maybe I will stitch that down the track, even though Eliza's French Birds is quite similar. But I thought I'd start with the second in the series, which is called Bloom Wildly. And I think this is the stitch that, other than Noel Sampler, I'm proudest of this year, because it's just the aesthetic I'm very much into at the moment. Here it is. It's stitched with all the called for Roxy Floss Co. threads, and it's stitched on 16 count Dust Bunny Ada by Fox and Rabbit, and I bought it from the Stiches merchant in New South Wales, a fantastic store that you can also purchase from online. I'll zoom in. I'm just in love with this stitch. And I think perhaps, you know, we all have, you know, how we like to have different categories of walls, you know, bird wall, reproduction sampler wall, things like that. Probably more walls than we have in our houses, but given the rate at which I finish things, I don't think I'm going to run out of wall space anytime soon. But, you know, if I don't have an antique floral wall, I could do a bit of a mixture of birds and flowers, because often birds and flowers are in the same designs anyway. So yes, I'm very, very happy to have this one done. Then my next finish. Now there's some cross-stitcher accounting going on here, because my next finish is one of the 12 Days of Christmas ornaments by Satsuma Street. Now originally I had wanted to stitch the entire design. There's 2 options with the chart in terms of the way you want to finish them. You can either finish all 12 of the days in a grid, or you can finish them as individual ornaments. Originally I was going to stitch all 12 in a grid, but then because I did the Noel sampler and that's in grid form, I thought that perhaps having some variation to my Christmas display, it might look good to have these completed as ornaments, and my plan is to display them on a silver mini Christmas tree that my mum gave me. It's a very long-term plan though, because I've only stitched one of the 12 days of Christmas, but this is where the cross-stitching accounting comes in here. I'm counting the day of Christmas that I finished, which happens to be the 3rd day, because, you know, cross-stitch rules, whatever, like I don't have to stitch these things in order, but the 1/3 day of Christmas that I have finished is counting as a finish, and then the balance is being only counted as 1 whip. So I don't count all the other 11 as 11 whips, just 1. And even though I've only finished the 3rd day of Christmas, I'm counting it as a finish. I think that's legit, don't you? I think that's fair. So I'll just get it out of this bag, because I'm using the same bit of fabric to stitch the next ornament currently. So I'm stitching this on 14 count white Ada, using the called for DMCs. What drew me to this was just the bright sort of mid-century modern vibe, and so this is for 3 French hens. I love the sort of literal French beret and the beautiful bright sunflower. I'll zoom in. So that is the third day of Christmas in the Satsuma Street Ornaments 12-day of Christmas ornament set. I should say a lot of my finishes are on, or all of them are on my Instagram, which my handle there is Ella Rose Vines, all one word. So, you know, if there is a pause between my videos, you can always follow me there and keep up to date with what I've been doing. Then my last finish for 2023, and you know, I know I'm filming this on the 13th of December, so I know that we have, you know, a little bit of time for perhaps sneaking in another finish there, but I thought now is as good a time as any. But my 15th finish for 2023, last but certainly not least, is Lovebirds by Stitch Rovia. And this is one of those fabrics that's difficult to photograph and film. It's Celadon, I think that's how you pronounce it, and that's what it's called, green, Zweigart, 14 count. And it's a beautiful sort of pale pastel green. I stitched this using the called for DMC. And this pattern was very thoughtfully gifted to me by my partner for my birthday. And so it's a very meaningful stitch for me. And I was very motivated to stitch it straight away when my partner gave it to me. And yeah, it has a lot of meaning because I suppose I felt connected to them with every stitch, and I will think of my partner every time that I look at it. So that is my last finish for 2023. I'll zoom in. It was also a very relaxing stitch because of the block colours. So I did a lot of outlining and then filling in. So it was exactly the relaxation that I needed, particularly as I was, you know, at this very busy juncture with my PhD. So that's all the finishes I have to show you. I hope you enjoyed seeing them as much as I enjoyed revisiting them. I feel so energized from having filmed this video, and I'm looking forward to filming my work in progress whip parade next. I'm hoping to have more balance in my life next year to hopefully film more regular Flosstube updates, so fingers crossed for that. Thank you so much for spending some stitchy time with me. Until I see you next, please take each day one stitch at a time. Stay well. Bye.